She was just a waitress, tired, underpaid, and trying to survive. When she helped a struggling dishwasher on his first day, she didn't know she was standing up for a boss in disguise. Her kindness got her fired on the spot by a racist manager. But less than 24 hours later, she walked back in, not as staff, but as the new manager. What happens when the one they tried to silence ends up in charge? This isn't just a comeback, it's a reckoning. Kendra's shoes were worn thin, and her back ached from double shifts, but she still tied her apron with the same tired smile. It was another long day at Duke's Grill, the kind of Southern-style diner where regulars sipped coffee for hours. And waitresses were expected to smile, even when they were being insulted. Kendra had learned to keep her head down and focus on her tips, especially since the manager, Tanya, always found a reason to bark at her. The place looked nice from the outside. Neon signs, warm lighting, the smell of fried chicken and fresh biscuits. But behind the scenes, things weren't so sweet. Tanya ran the place like her personal kingdom, picking favorites, snapping at the black staff, and treating anyone who didn't kiss up like they were disposable. Kendra had seen girls get fired for tiny mistakes, while others, usually the ones who laughed at Tanya's ugly jokes, got off easy. That morning, a new dishwasher named Joe had been brought in. He was quiet, middle-aged, dressed too nice for the back kitchen, but nobody thought much of it. Tanya rolled her eyes when she saw him. "Another one? Bet he won't last a week," she said loud enough for everyone to hear, her tone thick with sarcasm. Kendra had been refilling coffee at table 5 when she overheard Tanya making a cruel comment about Joe, calling him lazy before even starting. That rubbed Kendra the wrong way. She didn't know Joe, but something about the way he kept his head down while doing everything right made her feel protective. So, when she passed by the kitchen and saw him struggling to carry a crate of plates, she helped him, not thinking twice about it. "You don't need to help him," Tanya snapped when she saw her. "We don't pay you to babysit." Kendra stood still for a second, debating whether to say anything. But she couldn't keep quiet this time. "I was just being decent," she said, her voice calm but firm. "He's new. Helping ain't a crime." Tanya's expression changed like a switch had flipped. "Then maybe you can take the rest of your shift off. Clean out your locker." Kendra blinked. "You're firing me?" "No," Tanya smirked. "I'm releasing you. Go be decent somewhere else." Nobody said a word. The other waitresses looked away. Joe just stood there, watching with a strange, unreadable expression. Kendra didn't cry. She just pulled off her apron, took a deep breath, and walked out the back door into the cold morning air. That night, she lay on her cousin's couch, wondering what she did wrong. She knew it wasn't about the crate or the dishwasher. It was about Tanya needing control, and about Kendra not playing along. She couldn't afford to be out of work. Rent was due next week, and she barely had $80 left in her account. For a few hours, she stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, replaying everything. Was helping that man really worth losing her job? The next morning, she got a call from a number she didn't recognize. She almost didn't pick up, but something told her to answer. "Hi, is this Kendra Davis?" the voice asked. "Yeah. Who's this?" "This is Joseph Carter. You might remember me from yesterday. I was the dishwasher." She sat up straight. "Oh, yeah. Are you okay?" "I'm better than okay," he said, with a hint of a laugh. "I wasn't actually a dishwasher. I'm the new regional owner of Duke's Grill. I was undercover yesterday, and I saw everything." Kendra's mouth fell open. "I saw how Tanya treated you. I saw how you stood up when others didn't. I wanted to thank you. And also," he paused, "I'd like you to come back, but not as a waitress. We need a new manager, and I think you'd be perfect." Kendra couldn't speak. Her heart thudded against her ribs. She had no words, only a feeling, like the weight of every bad day had just been lifted. Kendra showed up the next morning wearing her only clean blouse and the nicest pair of flats she had. She didn't know what a manager was supposed to wear, but she knew she had to look the part, or at least close to it. Her stomach churned the whole way there. Part of her still thought it might be a joke, that maybe this Joseph guy had changed his mind overnight. But when she stepped through the doors of Duke's Grill, everything felt different. The moment she walked in, the other employees stopped what they were doing. Some of the waitresses stared, wide-eyed. One of the cooks actually dropped a spatula. Tanya was already behind the counter, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. When she looked up and saw Kendra, her face curled into something ugly. "Well, look who couldn't take the hint," Tanya said with a fake smile. "We're not hiring, honey." Kendra stayed calm, even though her heart was racing. "I'm not here to wait tables." "Oh? Then what are you here for? To beg for your job. Back!" Before she could answer, Joseph walked in from the back office, wearing a pressed navy blazer and holding a folder in his hand. Tanya's fake smile melted like butter in a skillet. "Good morning," Joseph said, his voice calm but clear. "Tanya, I need to speak with you. Now." Tanya blinked. "What's this about?" He held up the folder. "About your performance. And your termination." The room went silent. Not a dish clinked, not a foot moved. "You're firing me?" Tanya nearly choked on her words. "Yes," Joseph said without hesitation. "I went undercover to understand how our staff is treated. What I witnessed from you was unprofessional, biased, and completely against our values." Tanya's eyes darted toward Kendra, then back at Joseph. "This is because I fired that girl for stepping out of line. I was doing my job." "You fired someone for helping another employee," Joseph said coldly. "And you humiliated her in front of the entire staff. Not to mention the disrespectful remarks you made about me when you thought I was just a dishwasher." "You're making a mistake," Tanya hissed. "She doesn't know how to run anything. She's just—" Joseph cut her off. "She's exactly what this place needs. And you're exactly what it doesn't." Tanya stood frozen for a few seconds, then grabbed her bag, knocking over a sugar dispenser on her way out. No one moved to clean it. No one told her goodbye. She slammed the door behind her like a thunderclap. Joseph turned back to the stunned crew. "Starting today, Kendra Davis is your new general manager." The staff blinked, still processing. One of the busboys actually clapped. Kendra stood there, trying to breathe steady. Part of her wanted to cry. Part of her still didn't believe this was happening. Joseph leaned in slightly. "You okay?" he asked in a lower tone. She nodded, her voice catching in her throat. "Yeah, just shocked." "You earned this," he said. "Now go show them why." Over the next few hours, Kendra got her tour of the back office, went through a stack of policies, and met with the assistant managers, who all looked half curious and half nervous. Most had been under Tanya's thumb for so long, they weren't sure how to act now. By lunchtime, the vibe had already shifted. The line cooks cracked a few jokes. The servers looked a little less tense. Kendra didn't come in trying to throw her weight around. She just asked questions, listened, and actually treated people like they mattered. When she walked past the break room, she heard one of the waitresses whisper, "She's better than Tanya already." Kendra paused, took a deep breath, and smiled to herself. For the first time, in years, she didn't feel like just another replaceable worker in a greasy apron. She felt like someone who finally had a voice. The next few days were a whirlwind for Kendra. She arrived early, stayed late, and took notes on everything, from inventory reports to server schedules. There were moments when she felt out of her depth, sure, but something inside her had changed. She wasn't just working a job anymore. She was leading something. And people noticed. Customers started smiling more when she passed by. Some of the regulars asked, "Hey, aren't you the waitress from last week?" She'd nod, trying not to blush. "Sure am. Now I'm just helping run the place." She didn't flaunt it. She didn't strut around like Tanya used to, barking orders just to feel powerful. Instead, she asked the staff what needed fixing. She listened. And slowly, she started making changes. The first thing she did was scrap Tanya's old favorites list. Everyone was treated the same now. No more special tables for Tanya's chosen girls. No more backroom punishments over small mistakes. If someone was late, they were spoken to with respect. If someone messed up, it was a learning moment, not a public shaming. Word spread fast. Even workers who'd been quiet before began speaking up. Luis, the dishwasher who never said a word, actually laughed one afternoon and told Kendra, "This is the first week I didn't dread coming in." Still, not everyone was happy. There was a waitress named Marcy, one of Tanya's loyal shadows, who didn't take the changes well. She rolled her eyes when Kendra gave instructions, talked back under her breath, and once left her section, in a mess just to prove a point. Kendra tried to speak with her calmly, but it was like talking to a wall. On the third day, Marcy said loud enough for the whole staff to hear, "Let's see how long the charity case lasts. Tanya, be back once they realize what a joke this is." Kendra froze for a second, the words slicing deep. But then she looked at the rest of the staff, all the people who were watching, waiting to see what kind of manager she really was. "I'll talk to you in the office," Kendra said evenly. Inside, she didn't yell. She didn't insult. She simply asked, "Do you want to be part of this team or not? Because I'm not going to let anyone drag the place down anymore. Not Tanya. Not you." Marcy tried to smirk, but it fell flat. After a long silence, she said, "You're not what I expected." "Neither was this job," Kendra replied. "But I'm here to do it right." By Friday, the diner felt like a whole new place. Sales were already picking up. Customers stayed longer. Even corporate noticed. Joseph emailed her saying he'd stop by next week to check on things, but that he'd already heard more good feedback in 3 days than we got in the last 3 months. But something still gnawed it. Her late that evening, after closing time, Kendra sat alone in the office. The lights were dim, the smell of grease still lingering in the air. She stared at the staff calendar, then at a framed photo Tanya had left behind, a picture of the old management team. She thought about all the people who'd been overlooked, mistreated, stepped on just to keep someone like Tanya comfortable. She thought about herself, all those nights walking home in the dark, wondering if she'd ever be seen for more than just a waitress. And now here she was. Sitting in the manager's chair. A knock came at the door. It was Luis, holding 2 to-go cups. "Coffee," he said, grinning shyly. "Figured the boss might need one." Kendra smiled, took the cup and sipped. It was way too sweet, but she didn't care. "Thanks," she said. "Really?" "You earned it," he replied. "We all see it." As he walked away, Kendra leaned back and let the moment sink in. She was still learning, still fumbling through new responsibilities. But for the first time in her life, she didn't feel invisible. She felt like a leader. Monday arrived with a strange mix of nerves and excitement buzzing through the diner. The staff moved a little quicker, stood a little straighter. Word had already made its way through the grapevine that Joseph, the undercover boss turned regional owner, was dropping by. No one knew exactly when, but everyone was on edge. Kendra, on the other hand, felt pressure building in a different way. It wasn't just about impressing Joseph. It was about keeping her promise to herself, that she would make this place better. Not just cleaner or more efficient, but fairer, more human. At 11:23 a.m., Joseph walked through the door in a sharp grey suit and smiled at the first hostess who recognized him. He made his way to Kendra's office, giving nods to the employees who greeted him. A few of them looked surprised when he remembered their names. Inside the office, Kendra was halfway through balancing receipts when he knocked and stepped in. "Hope I'm not interrupting," he said. Kendra stood, offering her hand. "Not at all. Good to see you again." He looked around and chuckled. "This office already looks better than it did last week. Tanya had the lights so dim, I thought it was a cave." "She liked to keep people uncomfortable," Kendra replied dryly. "I know," he said, his tone shifting. "And that's why I'm here." He pulled out a folder and placed it on her desk. You've done more in 5 days than some managers do in 5 months. Morale's up. Complaints are down. And the shift schedule you redrew? That alone fixed a dozen staffing issues. I'm impressed. Kendra exhaled slowly. I've been doing what I wish someone did for me. Joseph nodded. That's exactly why I want you to do more, she blinked. More? There's an opening, he said, sliding the folder toward her. Assistant District Supervisor. It's part-time for now, mostly shadowing. You'd still manage this location, but you'd also start learning the ropes on a regional level. Kendra stared at the folder like it was glowing. Her palms went sweaty. She hadn't even been in charge for a full week, and now they were asking her to level up again. Why me? She asked, half in disbelief. I'm still learning this job. Joseph smiled. Because you care. And that's something I can't teach. I saw the way you stood up last week. That wasn't about ambition. It was about character. And I'd rather build a company with people who have that. She opened the folder slowly. Inside was a letter of intent, some HR forms, and a hand-signed note from Joseph that read, People like you change things. Don't let anyone tell you different. Before she could respond, the intercom buzzed. One of the servers sounded panicked. Kendra, we've got a situation. A lady at table 7 is screaming at Luis and threatening to call corporate. She says, The place has gone ghetto. Kendra's heart dropped. Joseph heard it too, and his expression darkened. I'll handle it, she said, standing quickly. When she walked into the dining room, the scene hit her like a slap. A middle-aged white woman in a pink blazer was standing and yelling while poor Luis just stood there, frozen. The woman pointed at him like he wasn't even human. I asked for lemon with my water, not lime. And I don't appreciate being ignored. You people don't know how to run a place right. This used to be a nice restaurant. Kendra stepped in fast, her voice calm but full of authority. Ma'am, I'm the manager. I need you to stop yelling at my staff. The woman turned on her. Finally, someone in charge. I want to talk to someone who actually runs this dump. Kendra didn't flinch. You're talking to her, the woman scoffed. This is unbelievable. Joseph stepped forward quietly and said, Yes, it is. The woman's face paled. Who are you? He flashed a tight smile. I'm regional. Ownership, and you're no longer welcome here. You'll be refunded for your meal, but please leave. Her jaw dropped. This is discrimination. No, ma'am, Joseph replied. This is accountability. As security gently guided her out, the rest of the diners erupted into quiet applause. Luis looked like he might cry. Kendra gave him a soft nod. You okay? She asked. He nodded slowly. Yeah, no one's ever stepped in like that before. You're part of this team, she said. No one gets talked to like that. Not on my watch. Joseph leaned in again as the crowd calmed. Still think you're not ready for more? Kendra didn't answer right away. She just smiled, a real one this time, and looked around. The diner she used to dread walking into. No, she said finally. I think I'm just getting started. The next few weeks brought more change than Kendra had ever imagined possible. She was now juggling 2 roles, running Duke's Grill day to day, while training for the assistant district supervisor position. It wasn't easy. Some nights she barely slept, her mind racing with spreadsheets, staff schedules, and training policies. But for the first time in her life, exhaustion felt like a sign of purpose, not punishment. What surprised her most wasn't the work. It was how people responded. Staff started stepping up in ways she hadn't expected. Marcy, the same woman who once mocked her openly, had started arriving early, staying late, and even volunteering to train the new hires. One afternoon, she lingered after her shift and handed Kendra a coffee. Look, Marcy mumbled, avoiding eye contact. I gave you a hard time. I thought you were just another sympathy promotion, but I was wrong. Kendra looked at her surprised. You care. You actually give a damn about all of us. That's rare. Kendra smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. I'm just trying to fix what should have been working all along." Marcy nodded and walked out, but not before muttering, "You're doing more than that." Even the customers felt the shift. People stayed longer, tipped better, and some even started asking to speak with Kendra just to compliment the service. One elderly man pulled her aside and said, "This place feels like home again." But not everyone was happy. Tanya had been quiet since her firing. No threats, no angry emails, just silence. Until one Thursday morning, a corporate HR rep showed up with a formal complaint. Apparently, Tanya is accusing you of bias, retaliation, and creating a hostile work environment, the rep said, flipping through a packet of typed-up nonsense. Kendra's stomach dropped. "Are you serious?" "Serious enough that we have to investigate," he said. "But off the record. I've read her statement. It's full of contradictions. And the staff testimonials we've already collected don't support any of her claims." Still, it shook her. That someone could tear down everything she was building, just out of spite, made her skin crawl. For the first time since she got promoted, doubt crept back in. What if corporate got scared? What if they took Tanya's word over hers? That evening, she stayed late, going through every log, every policy document, making sure there were no cracks in her foundation. Joseph called her around 9 p.m. "I heard about the complaint," he said. "Don't worry, we've got your back. Just stay steady." Kendra nodded, though he couldn't see it. "I will. I can't go back to being voiceless." "I won't." "You won't," he said. "Tanya's from the old world. You're the future. And people like her, they'll always fight hardest right before they disappear for good." The next morning, the HR rep returned, this time with a different look in his eyes. "Complaint's been closed," he said. "Not only did we find no wrongdoing, we found evidence of Tanya falsifying prior staff reports. She's officially blacklisted from every property we own." Kendra sat back, relief washing over her like a wave. She didn't celebrate. She didn't gloat. She just got up, walked to the floor, and started prepping with the team like she always did. Later that night, as the dinner rush slowed and the lights dimmed, she stood at the hostess station, watching the tables fill with laughter, coffee mugs clinking, forks scraping against plates. It was just a diner, fried food, vinyl booths, and sticky menus. But to her, it had become a symbol. Proof that change was possible, even in the most unlikely places. Luis came over with the new trainee, a shy high school kid with nervous eyes. "Kendra," Luis said, "this is Marcus. First shift. Go easy on him." Kendra smiled and stuck out her hand. "Welcome to the team," she said. "Just remember, around here we look out for each other. That's how we do things now." Marcus smiled and nodded, and as she looked around, at the people, the place, the energy, Kendra realized something. She hadn't just taken over a job. She had taken back her power, and this time, no one was ever going to take it from her again. The end.